Good afternoon, and welcome to K2's Road to Excellence with Excel Series Part 11 and our partner Doc.It. This is Alan Salmon, and I'm pleased to be with you. It's a nice sunny day here in Brampton, Ontario, and I'm pleased to welcome Casey Sims from our U.S. office in Hammond, Louisiana, where she tells me it's utterly hot and very humid. Casey will be my backup today. She is your go-to person for any technical problems, and she will handle the questions. As usual, your microphones are muted for obvious reasons. When it comes to note-taking, feel free to do so, but remember that within 10 days of today, you will all be receiving a copy of this webinar, my teaching notes, my teaching files, and the answers to all the questions. And speaking of questions, you do those through the chat window, and Casey will be preparing a file for me with all the questions that are asked in this session, and she will be sending it to me and to Don Emery from Doc.It. We will answer those questions, and the complete questions and the answers will be included in the stuff that you get with the recording. And then finally, important for all of you, is 4 times this afternoon, we're going to put up a polling question. And if you're new to this session, it's a multiple choice question, usually 4 possible answers, and you don't have to get the answer correct. But what you do have to do is select an answer, because that timestamps your record, and we know that at that point in time, you are paying attention. If you're recorded as answering 3 of the 4 questions, you will get a certificate for 1 hour of verifiable CPDs. If you don't, it'll be 1 hour of non-verifiable. Now today, as you all know, is the second session I'm doing on pivot tables. So before we get started, Casey, can you call up the first polling question, please? Well, I'm going to give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's close the poll, Casey, and show us the answers, please. Well, only 2% of you ace them. That I normally get 5%. Well, by the end of my half hour, the 74% should change dramatically. So, will you give me back control, please, Casey? Now, I have no idea how many of you did not attend the first session. So I'm going to take 2 minutes and create a pivot table from scratch. But before I do that, I'm going to give you a definition for what a pivot table is. It's nothing more than a summary report. And it's based on a data set like this. And let's see how many rows we've got. 431 and 5 columns. Now I had a question the last session that I did, which was, how did I get from the top to the bottom so fast? Well, the answer is very simple. If I hover over the top of the cell, my mouse pointer changes to the 4 arrows, and I merely double click and I'm at the top. That is assuming there are no blank cells, which would cause it to stop. All right, to create a pivot table, we obviously click Insert. And there is a small difference here depending on the version of Excel that you're using. If you're on 2013 and 2016, Excel shows you a possible layout for your pivot table. I will use that in my wrap, but everybody can use this. Click, and Excel's smart enough because I've selected a cell inside the data set to say your data is A1 to E431. I want it in a new worksheet. I click on OK. And here is where I'm going to build my summary report. Here are the names of all my columns. So I'm going to click on vendor, and two things happen. There's my vendors in column A and vendors in the row quadrant. I want my date going across, so I click, drag, and drop it into the columns. And I want my amount down here. And there we go. There's my summary. How quick it is. Now, I'm going to take off the quarters. Actually, I'm going to leave the quarters, and I'm going to do that. And then I just want the grand total. So I'm going to hide it. Actually, I'm not. I've already prepared it. So there is a pivot table with my products, and there is the total amount. And I'm going to go up here after I click inside the pivot table. And notice what I've got here. I'm back to my original layout, and you'll notice sum of accounts right there. Now I'm going to do something that you're going to think is totally stupid because there's nothing preventing me from dragging this down again and again. Well, if we got 3, I'm going to do 5. And I think you would all agree that that is the dumbest pivot table that you have ever seen, bar none. But watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to click select B1, and I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to go down to value field settings. And that's going to give me a list of things that I can do with that data. And on this one, I want to do account. I'm going to leave that as the sum. Select this one, value field settings. I'm going to do the average. On this one, I'm going to do max. And min. And now I think you would agree that it doesn't look so dumb, but this is weird. Well, that's a simple text, so we'll do this as count. We'll do this as sum. And since formatting is important, we'll do this, and we'll center it. And then finally, we need to do some formatting here. So I'm clicking here. I think you would agree now that I wasn't being so dumb. And now, to add insult to injury, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to pose a rhetorical question. How long would it take you to fiddle with this data set to get this. All right, let's move on to the topic of today, which is consolidations. So what I have here is 3 divisions of D&M Distributing Company. Ones that create creams, one that create lotions, and one that creates scrubs. Now, those 3 worksheets are laid out exactly the same way. So on all of them, B5 is Jan and so on. Do they have to be? No. And I will show you an example of that shortly. Now, before I can do a consolidated pivot table, I've got to do something with my quick access toolbar. And you will all have to add an icon to your quick access toolbar. And the one that I want is the pivot table wizard. Well, guess what? It's not in popular commands. So I can either go to commands not in the ribbon or all commands. I'm going to go to all commands, go down to the P's, and there we go. The pivot table and pivot chart wizard. You will click on add. And when I click on add, it's going to tell me, hey, dummy, you've already got it there. So you'll click on add and you'll click on OK. And then you will have that icon right there. Now, I don't need a new worksheet to create my consolidations. I can start with any of the 3. I'm going to start with creams and watch what happens now when I click on the pivot table and pivot chart wizard. I get some choices. I could create a pivot table from a single list, from an external data source, multiple consolidation range, another pivot table. Well, the obvious choice is multiple consolidation ranges. And I want a pivot table. I click on next. And I'm going to skip this for now. I will come back to it in about 3 minutes. So I'm going to click on next. And now I merely highlight the complete area here, including the column headings. And I click on add. And I do that again for lotions. And I click on add. And then finally, scrubs, and click on add. Now, if your eyesight is really good, you'll see that creams run from A5 to M13, so to lotions, so to scrubs. So I'm reinforcing my point that they are exactly the same. I follow my nose. Next, I want it in a new workbook. And I'm done. So there's my summary pivot table. However, that's probably the dumbest P&L that you've ever seen when you look at column A. Because Excel, for some reason, thinks that they should be alphabetized. Well, that's a 5-second fix. I need revenue up here. So if I right mouse click and go to move, notice what it says. Move revenue to the beginning. Well, that was easy. I need to move net income. And I'm obviously going to click on here, but notice the next 2 up, move net income up or down. That will move it a single cell at a time. So that's that fixed. Now my gross margin needs to go up under cost of sales. So I'm going to select it, and notice that when I touch the frame on the top, I get my 4-headed. Come on. There we go. And I just click and hold and move it up. And the next thing we got to deal with is row 13, because I don't think any of you have ever created a P&L where you added both the revenue and the expenses to get a grand total. Kind of dumb. So what do we do with this? Well, select grand total, click on there, and remove the grand total. And now you have a consolidated pivot table from 3 sheets. And by the way, in passing, I've chosen to do it from 3 sheets for time purposes. This could easily be 3 separate Excel files. Now I'm going to do it again because I need to show you something. I need to show you something, and I'll do it up here. So up here in my filters, I get this. All item 1, item 2, item 3. Item 1 is creams, item 2 is lotions, and item 3 is scrubs. Well, you'd never know that from here, and that'll be totally confusing if somebody else is using your pivot table. So very quickly, we're going to start all over. And here we go. Now, if we look at this, you can create a pivot table report that uses ranges and page fields, and page fields are the filter that I showed you. If I let Excel create a single page field for me, it's going to create it with item 1, 2, and 3. But if I choose I will create the page fields, I can give it a logical name, like creams, lotion, and scrubs. So now the next step is exactly the same. Here we go. And finally, add. Now, here's where I make the change. Down here, Excel is asking me how many page fields do I want. I only want 1. Okay, so I'm going to go up here to creams, and down here in field 1, I'm going to put the name that I want, which is creams. I'm going to do the same thing for lotions. And finally for scrubs. There we go. Next, I want it in a new worksheet. Now I'm not going to bother alphabetizing or changing these. I'm going to go up here to page 1 and notice what I've got. Now something in passing, you notice that right now I have 2 choices. I can select all or any one of these 3, but notice down here the checkbox. And I would suggest that when you're using filters like this, you select multiple items, because now I got a choice. I could do creams or creams and lotions or the whole thing. So I hope you would agree that creating a pivot table from multiple sheets or multiple files really isn't an issue once you get the hang of it. So now I want to do a second one. Now remember the first time everything was equal. In other words, the data sets were exactly the same. In this case, they're not. So if we go here, there's the standard budget for this company with these accounts. Product design has a new one called Central IT. Field testing has a new one called outsourced services, and you notice there's no Q3 and Q4. So that begs the question, can we do a consolidation? And the answer is yes. So let's do it. Multiple choice. Here we go. I'm not going to bother with page names and so on this time. So now I'm going to do exactly what I did before. I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to add. I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to add, and then finally we're going to do this one. And I'm going to add. Okay, next, new worksheet, finish, and there we go. Now, notice that there is a line item now for allocated central IT because it was here. Notice there is an outsourced services from here. And notice that outsourced services only has Q1 and Q2. So notice there's no outsourced services for quarters 3 and 4. So how did Excel do that? Well, it checked down here, and if there was an item in any of the 3 sheets, it added it. And in this case, it's only added allocated central IT from sheet 1 or product design. So let's pretend now, and pretend that I am the CFO of this company. I prepared a new budget because I'm kind of kind. I suspect that all of you have had this question asked in your career. Hi, I'm John, the manager of such and such a department. I really need a separate line item. Will you give it to me? Standard answer, no. Well, let's pretend that I'm benevolent and I've added allocated central IT and added outsourced services. I'm happy with this, and I fly it up to the CEO, and instantly he says, where did allocated central IT come from? And where did outsourced services? Why am I not seeing our standard budget items for comparison purposes? And you fumble and mumble, and you don't want that. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up here to the Design tab, and I'm going to go over here to Report Layout. Design tab, Report Layout, and I get 4 choices. Show in compact form, and that's exactly what I have here. Show in outline form, and I get that. It's just tighter. And then show in tabular form, and I get that. Still didn't solve the problem. So now we're going to go back to what we did in the first part of this, and we're going to group allocated central IT with central IT. So I've selected both of them, and I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to go to group. I'm going to do that with allocated facilities and outsourced services. And you would never, ever, ever show this to your CEO. So now we're going to go back here to the report layout, and we're going to go here, We're going to show it in tabular form and watch what happens. I've got this. Well, we're going to call this group Central IT. And we're going to call this group Allocated Facilities. And then I'm going to hide row B. Now, there's a weird idiosyncrasy when we try to hide a column. When I right mouse click, I'm going to select Remove Row, which should say Hide. And notice what we've got now. Whoops, this should be whatever that full name was. Allocated Facilities, I think it was. Yeah, let's go here and find out what it was. Allocated Facilities. And there we go. Now notice now, this is a mirror image of our standard. CEO's happy. Buried in here, I've made the manager happy. Buried in here, I've made the manager happy. And we're good to go. So there is a perfect example of how to combine multiple sheets or multiple files that are not exactly the same. I want to do one more thing before I wrap it up and turn things over to Don Emery, and that is I'm going to go here to here. And I showed you this file before, and it's a big one. So it's got 91,053 rows. So let me very quickly create a pivot table. And this time I'm going to do it a bit differently because I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to do this because I'm on 2016. And here's some examples. So there's what the pivot table will look like. And that's exactly what I want. So I click on OK, and there we go. Now, there's all my states in alphabetical order, but I want them largest to smallest. So how do I do that? I just do a standard sort. Now, if I come over here and click on that filter button, I can come down here to value filters, and I can find if there's any that equal, does not equal, and so on, but I want to go down here to the top 10. So in this case, I'm interested in Excel automatically showing me the top 10 in these 70 items. Now, if I wanted the bottom 10, I go there. If I want 9 or 11, I go there, but I want 10. And there we go. And I could sort it and so on. So that's a wrap for me, but Casey, I need you to call up my last poll, please. And I think we're just about there. So let's do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So what have we got, Casey? 27%. That's interesting. A quarter of you have used these advanced Excel functions. So why am I asking this question? these are the 4 topics for my first session in July. And at that point, I'm going to say goodbye for 30 minutes. I will be back at the end, and I'm going to do a handoff.
Very good. Thank you.
That's great.
All right. Thank you. Alan, I always learn a lot when I sit and I watch your sessions. There's always lots to learn in Excel, and it's always a good session to pick up a number of tips. I don't think I've come out of one of your sessions without getting 3 or 4 tips on different things that I could do. So thank you very much for presenting them. We also appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. My name is Don Emery. I come from Doc.It Inc. Doc.It is a developer of document management workflow and portal systems for accountants. It's the industry that we're in. If we 3 words or 4 words, you basically say, what is Doc.It? We're document management, workflow, portal. Who do we do it for? We do it for accountants. So I'm just going to go through one PowerPoint slide before we get into actually getting into the software itself, just to give you a little background. Who is Doc.It? What is Doc.It? So you get some understanding of who we are. We are a complete suite of document management tools, which includes document management. A lot of times people will replace current document management tools, or they will be replacing the fact that they're keeping files in Windows and just in their Windows directories. Not too many companies anymore of accounting firms are per se paper-based, but there are still some out there. So we're replacing current tools, whether you are in paper, whether you are using a document management system, whether you are storing just your files into Windows. We are a workflow system so that you can manage the work that you have on go in your firm, all different types of engagements you can do. We have a PDF editor, which is a replacement for Adobe. It's not an add-on. It's a complete replacement, but it has the tools that accountants need. We have a web portal that integrates into our document management system with prepared by client checklists or lists that you can send out for your clients to upload documents to your portal. And it also includes a secure email. A lot of times clients will replace their existing portal with something that then becomes fully integrated into their document management system. It has scan and organize tools for when we're doing things like tax slip scanning. And there is a mobile app for when you're on the go and you want to be able to have access to the Doc.It system. You can have it via a mobile app to your tablet, to your phone. You can access anything that there is within the Doc.It system. We're serving accountants and tax professionals since 2001. We have about 500 clients, represents 12,000 plus users. In size from 300 users, our largest firm is 550. So we have quite a variance of clients. Our average size is in the 25 to 30 user range, but half of our users are firms with 50 users and above. Our development comes from this industry. It comes from users. It comes from industry experts. So the software is being developed with tools that are necessary for accountants. We do things in the tax season. We will extend our support later hours at night. We will be open on Saturdays to help support you because we understand the industry. But also, we appreciate that you have seasonal staff. So we're not going to make you pay for licenses for the whole year when you maybe only have staff around for 3 or 4 months. We just increase your license account for that period, and we decrease it when they're done their busy season. If we're all accountants, let's work together. We do have tools that are going to help you with some efficiency. So from your tax systems, from your time and billing software, you can print, and we will automatically file those documents. So tax returns, invoices, customer statements. We'll automatically file those documents away without you having to touch them because we can read the information in the documents, pick up who it is and where it should go, and we'll file those things away from you. So we get a means of integration into your various tools that you're using to surround your document management system. We do integrate with Caseware. Caseware, we have about 11 points of integration. Roughly 2/3 of our clients do use Caseware. We are a Canadian firm, so because many Canadian accounting firms use Caseware, we have a heavy degree of integration into Caseware. We have won awards from K2, and if you look there on the right, that K2 Enterprises in the US, we have won 2 years in a row. We won awards for our customer care. We have unlimited support. You can call, and yes, we answer the phone. You can email, you can post things via our support portal. Whatever works for you, but you want to get on the phone, you want to talk to a person, we will gladly talk to you because a lot of times talking gets things solved faster than emailing back and forth 10 times. When you sign up with Doc.It, there's no long-term contract. We're not going to bind you in for 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. We feel we earn your business month to month, and we don't need a long-term contract. So that's the way it works. We have people who have been on our software since we started in 2001, and a couple of them are still our clients. We do not charge you for upgrades. We have not had a price increase since 2001. We have added many new modules and a lot of functionality to the software. We continue to add to it every year. Our prices remain the same. We have never increased our price, and we make money because we grow as a firm, and we always have new people coming onto the software. We also have best practice implementation, so that the built into the software are all of our best practices. We have a methodology that we work you through that we've used for these 500 accounting firms, so that you can learn from the experience of other firms. You can gain best practices that are being done in the industry, and we will take that and put it together with your specific needs to get you the configuration that you need, and then to provide the training to your staff in your configured system so that they get the best user experience possible, and it will be easiest for them to be off and running working on the software. Our software can be hosted on premise, so on your own servers. It can be hosted in a third-party site. There's a number of third parties that we work with that they host all of your servers, they host all of your software, and then you can regardless of whether you're on premise or hosted, depending on your connectivity, you can basically access the software from wherever you are. We will be releasing a web-based client, our cloud system with a web browser. That will be in beta latter part of this year, and it will be released and in production during the year 2019. So we're well along the way. Been playing around in it, been doing some alpha testing in it, and it's moving its way nicely to being ready to go into beta testing. And that, by the way, that would be hosted on servers. If you're a Canadian firm in Canada, we're with Microsoft Azure, or if you're in the States or if you're in the United Kingdom, we will have Microsoft servers using their Azure servers that they have in each of those countries, because we represent, we do business into each of Canada, United States, and the United Kingdom. Okay, that's enough of being in a PowerPoint. Let's get ourselves into the software. And as we get ourselves to the software, Casey, can you do me a favor and launch the first poll, please? All right. So first question up here is, where do you generally store your final documents? This is a multiple answer. Just getting a feel for everybody, where do you put when you're done with things and you're completely done, where are you putting things? You get to see where you're sitting vis-a-vis other people in the industry. So as Alan said, part of getting your professional development hour, we do need you to answer the polls. So we invite everyone to participate. But I will have to close this down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Casey, if you could show us the results, please. All right. The results we have, 24% of you, let's call it a quarter of you, are keeping documents in Windows Explorer. A number that is going down, about 17% of you now are still storing documents in paper. 12% are using a document management system. 47% of you are storing things in multiple places. And that's pretty indicative of what we see. Really common that a lot of people are storing things in multiple places. And one of the things with storing things in multiple places, you spend a lot of time trying to find things. And that's really one of the things you want to do, is mitigate that time, because we want that all time that we spend as much as possible is billable. So let's get rid of the time we waste, but also let's be able to give our clients fantastic customer service by giving them access to information. So thank you, Casey. You can shut that down, please. And we will get ourselves then into actually talking about the Doc.It software. So we're talking about document management. We're talking about integrated workflow. We're talking about integrated portal. I'm going to try to hit all in those across the next 20 minutes. You're seeing here our main dashboard when we come in, with menus down the left. Configurable, we have about 60 different places where you can say, can someone do this or can someone do that? So we give very strong functional security control so that people are doing the proper things in the software. What you're seeing on the majority of the screen there, I've got a few reports driving. So there is widget reporting. A lot of this relates to things that we will talk about in workflow. But the principle is, give me real-time information. Don't print me out reports, because really they become inaccurate the moment that you print them. They're already stale. So here on my screen, I can create reports. I can utilize system reports, drive them to my screens. Whenever I want to see things, I'll have all the information at my fingertips. Now, when it comes to document management, Doc.It has an engagement software as part of their document management. Although most Canadian CPA firms do, and accounting firms, whatever the bookkeeping firms as well, they usually use Caseware when they're doing year-end type work. But we found 10, 12 years ago, probably more 12 years ago, that a lot of firms were not using Caseware when it came to doing any sort of services that didn't involve the production of a financial statement. So once you got into personal tax, once you got into bookkeeping and payroll and tax consulting services, and then firms were doing valuation. We have firms in the state that do litigation support. We have clients involved in wealth management, in insolvency, all these different types of services that firms may be performing. They needed something other than Caseware because it was just a little bit too heavy. They weren't rocket scientists. They couldn't build templates themselves. And they wanted something where they could work on a project. They could do all of their work. They could review it. They could put in the review notes. Give me some of the engagement tools like I have in Caseware, but I don't really want that heavy overhead that comes along with Caseware. So I'm going to click on something called the Binder Explorer, which is really I'm going to call it the place where you work. It's the power center that brings together document management, workflow, and portal into one place. So let me just type in a client's name so that I'll have something up about a client. Now we're seeing many different things that are stored here about this client. And into this type column, this becomes really important when we want to look at different types of things. We have an archive. This is where we're going to put all of our finalized documents, where we did our poll, and a quarter of you were in Explorer, and 17% were in paper, and 12% were in a DM, and 47% were in multiple places. This is going to give us, this screen is going to satisfy so that 100% of what we have is in one place. My finalized documents, my archive, will all be here accessible under the client. I have access to a Caseware binder here right from the Doc.It system. I will have something called an inbox, is where I can put random documents. I've got Word documents, Excel. They don't really relate to a project, but it relates to something important about the client that I want to keep. I will have a place for random documents. I will have their portal documents. And then I will have something here called work binders. And these work binders are the place where I'm going to use Doc.It's engagement system to work on my elements. So everything about this client, the Caseware binders, the random documents, the documents that are being posted to the portal, either by us as a CPA firm or by our client, is here, as well as the engagements that we are working on in Doc.It, plus everything finalized we've done for this client. So now not only are our finalized documents in one place, everything there is about this client is in one place. So I'm going to explore some of these. I don't have time to explore all of them. I'm going to do what I can to make this as good as possible. So I've got one here. I've got a personal tax project. I'm just going to double click. Doc.It system, what it does is drives off of templates. We ship you about, I think there's 22 templates in the system. One of the templates is an archive. One of them is a portal folder layout. Then there's an inbox layout. Then we give you 17, 18, 19 different engagement type templates so that you've got a structure where you can work on different projects. Now, this would be an example of a structure that I would use for tax. And whenever I'm doing a personal tax return, this is where I will have all of my documents. This is where I'll work on it. This is where it's going to get reviewed. And then a snapshot of this is going to be put away into our storage. Let me just click back and open a different project. This is a little refinancing project. Oh, it's got very different folders than I had when I was in my tax project. Why? I have different filing needs. And my bookkeeping would look different than my payroll, than my valuations, than a little consulting project. But I'm going to have a template so that I always have a structure to work in, a structure to review in, where all of my documents are going to go in my project. Well, in order to be efficient, what are some tools that we can wrap around this? Well, I'm going to need tools to allow me to get documents very quickly into my project, and I want to be able to work on them. So what type of tools will we have? The first is we will have scanning tools, and those scanning tools, whenever we scan a file, regardless of what type of scanner we're using, or what type of, whether it's a local scanner or a network scanner, we're going to run them through OCR so the documents become searchable. That'll be really important to us down the road because we want that every word of every document is fully searchable. But secondly, I can also search that means that we can read tax documents. As this little file of scanned in tax documents, we're able to read them and identify I have a T5 and a T4. So the CRA, prescribed formatted forms, we can recognize them. And then we will have a cover sheet for those forms that are not of a prescribed format. So this one, in this case, on the right of my screen, it's saying it's for charitable donations. It knows that all of the documents under that cover sheet are a donation because really the formats are so irregular, you can't reasonably recognize them. Now you can create your own recognizable forms. You can create your own cover sheets. And I've seen people use this for bookkeeping purposes. I've seen them use it in insolvency for insolvency purposes. So whatever tools I'm talking about today, these tools can be used for all of the different types of work you need to do. Well, I'm just going to tell this, well, go ahead and let's put these documents away in my project so that I have documents that I can work on. In my configuration, I said, well, gee, where do I want documents to go? And as you can see, there's some green dots and check marks right here by this folder. And when I click down below, I'll see the document or documents that would have been being pushed to the wages folder. And the things that I had configured to go to interest and dividends, and the things that I had configured to go to the deductions folder. So you can then specify, so it will scan, recognize, name, and put away into the folders that you want things to be put away into. I have another folder up here called administration. It's got a green dot and a check mark, so there's something in it. What is in it is the ability to have what we call templated forms. So I maybe have an engagement letter when I have a little consulting project because I want to have a sample so that I can create an engagement letter. I can send it to my client. I may want to have certain information about, in this case, this is just a client information document, something I was playing with a couple of days ago, creating a fillable form with our PDF editor. But the principle is things that people will need, build them into the template. And whenever they create the project, either by rolling it forward or creating it from a template in the case of a first year or a new client that you get, and it allows me then to have these ready so that whenever I want to work on something, I don't have to go get them. They're at my fingertips. And when I want them, I can bring them into my project. Now we're going to integrate into Doc.It's portal, and we're going to integrate into Outlook. So I'm going to take this document that's here, and I'm just going to drag this file from Outlook, and I'm going to bring it into my project. I have here a message file, and I have here an Excel spreadsheet that were in my original email. And although I've brought them into my Doc.It work binder to work on them, they're still here in my Outlook. Let me just minimize my Outlook. When I click on the correspondence folder, which is where I copied, I have two files. I have a message file. I only had one attachment, so I also have the Excel spreadsheet. Obviously, if there were multiple attachments, I would have multiple things. When I double click on any file, it launches using the associated file type. In this case, a message file is associated with Outlook. Therefore, it launches Outlook. I can even actually reply or forward this email. I'm in Outlook right now, and I have the tools open to me that are available in Outlook whenever I go to a document. It's going to have critical information, forms part of my supporting documentation that backs up my project. Well, this Excel spreadsheet, I'm just going to drag it. I'm going to move it into my miscellaneous income folder just by dragging and dropping it. And there it's moved the file. Now I'm going to take that. Maybe I want to rename it. So I'm just going to press F2. And I'm just going to call it rental statement. So very easy to take documents, move them where they need to be, and in order to get them to the right place, rename. Let's try to make this nice and easy. And if I want to work on this file, I'm just going to double click. I'm going to launch Excel. Because it's an Excel file, I work on my file. I'm going to go in here and let's just change this number. And when I save it, it is saving this file into my project. And so I can work on Excel files here in my project. If I want this file to be used year after year, I'm just going to right click. I'm going to say, well, mark that file to be roll forward. And now when I create next year's file via the roll forward, it's going to automatically copy that document forward. That's going to be really important things that I'm going to need. And how else can I get documents in? Well, we have the portal. So I'm just going to double click. Look at that. The portal looks exactly the same as my work binders. It's going to look the same as the inbox. It's going to look the same as the archive. They're all the same folders with a green dot and a check mark. We've got a document. I want to get that document into my project. So I'm just going to take this and tear it off. I would possibly have this open on another monitor, but I'm just working on one monitor today. Let's take that document right from my portal, and I'm just going to drag that document and put it into my project. So now my client would have uploaded a document, which the portal automatically sent to me as the CPA firm an email. And then I take that document, I can drag and drop that file and bring it right into my project. So it becomes very easy to get documents in. If I want to put something on the portal, I just drag it from wherever in the system I am. I drag it to the portal. It's on the portal. The client gets an email that that document's been put on the portal. There's a link that they can click on the link to be able to log in, and they can directly log into the portal. So very easy to get information from, to, and get it up. Without spending too much time on the portal, I also can have a prepared by client list. So here I have a notice to reader project, and into my project, well, thus far there are no documents, but if there were documents, it would have told me that I would have how many documents I would have out of the list requested. But this list was created via our portal, emailed to the client and said, please provide these X documents. And when they log onto the portal, they take documents, they go to the list, and they just drag them and say, oh, this is my accounts payable list. Oh, this is my receivable list. Oh, this is my bank rec. And they just drag the documents into the portal, and instantly the documents are available here to the user, and they would have received an email that those documents were there. But really easy now to utilize prepared by client lists, and very easy to get my documents into my project. Well, I can drag and drop from Windows, and I can drag and drop from any places I need to get files in here. Enough of get files in. Let's talk about working a little bit on files. So we saw working on Excel. We saw we could have a message file. Doc.It also provides us with a PDF editor, which is a replacement for Adobe, and that can be a sizable cost savings. Because this is an editor written to the same standard as Adobe, I can do what I want in these files, send them to you. You use Adobe, you use Nitro, you use another PDF editor, you can read them. It's not a Doc.It PDF, it's a PDF. We're just using Doc.It's editor to edit that. So whomever you send it to, their editor can read it. Their editor can edit it. It's just a PDF. Well, let's go take a look at some of that functionality. I'm just going to right click and say, show me all the documents in my project. And I'm just going to take these documents here, and I'm going to open them in my PDF editor. When I open in my PDF editor, I can have all of those documents available to be worked on. I'm just going to drag this over this end. And I will have my documents. So here is my T4, and here is my T5, and here is my charitable donations. Now this editor is going to have the tools that I want. It has tick marks. So as I'm putting numbers in, I can be ticking things off onto my documents, and with whatever the various things are I need to tick. So I have tick marks. Maybe not for this purpose, but I will have some stamps that I can stamp things as prepared, reviewed, or I just want to sign onto something. So let me just throw my prepared stamp. So there's a prepared stamp that I threw. I'm going to have tools that are going to allow me to manipulate my documents by inserting and extracting and release and replacing and deleting pages. But I'm just going to hit Alt-C, and I'm going to load Doc.It's calculator. Let me just do some fast extension. Here's my calculator. I want to create a calculator tape. Maybe I was adding up the gas receipts. So I'm just going to I'm going to double click on the total because that's where I want to enter a note. I could enter one on any line. So this is maybe total gas receipts. And I spelled that wrong, but I'm not going to go back and fix it. I'm just going to come down, and I'm going to go to where I've got some space here, and let it go. There's my calculator tape, and I just throw my calculator tape, just like Alan was having fun grabbing it. There we go. I can throw my calculator tape onto my document, and I have it. Very, very useful tool for accountants. Now this editor has, redaction, and I can put headers and footers, and I can put my signature onto documents. I can put watermarks onto documents. I can create fillable forms, edit fillable forms. I can edit text in a PDF. I have markup tools right here. So the main tools I use 90% of the time, I don't even have to go into a menu to look for it. They're all available on this main screen. And when you figure the cost of Adobe can be anywhere from $15 to $22 a user, this becomes a fantastic tool to replace and save you a significant amount. In many cases, the cost of Adobe can be anywhere from 40 to 60% of the total cost of the Doc.It suite. So let me just save my document. So we have notes at the preparer level. We have notes for the reviewer, so you can put all of your notes in, whether against a document, whether against the project itself. So I can put notes in here about the project. I can have client notes. But what we have integrated right here into this screen, we have integrated into this screen workflow. So here on this workflow, I know who this piece of work is assigned to. I know I can go in and see all of my work. So when I want to work, what's all the work that's assigned to me? Whether me as an individual, this is my name, or me as a group that I belong to. And I can see when stages of the projects are due, and I can click and see my oldest work to my most recent so that things don't become stale. And I can look at due dates because we have due dates that we have on all of our projects. And optionally, I can have priorities. And this helps me make very intelligent decisions of what I need to work on. And I can just simply move my project. So right now, that personal tax project, here it is right here. Right now, it is, oh, that was not that one. I was in Charles Booth, one below. It's in the preparation stage. And if I was done my preparation, I'm just going to move it to the next step. And it knows, because we have built workflow configurations for each type of work, it knows move it to the next step. And it knows who it's assigned to. And in real time, that project just progressed to the next stage, and whomever is to pick it up now has it on their screen. And I can go in as a partner, and I can go in as a manager, and I can see all of the work that's on the go. And I can look at due dates that are forthcoming and know if I have projects that have a problem. And I can be on top. So as a partner, I can do that. As a manager, I can do that. As we have 3 different levels that you can go and extract information. Now, we fully integrate into Caseware that I can drag and drop from anywhere in the Doc.It system into Caseware, even from our portal, right straight into Caseware. I can use Doc.It's PDF editor into Caseware. I can launch files right from this right here. I'm just going to double click, and it's going to launch that Caseware file right from my Doc.It dashboard. So I have access to my Caseware, access to my work binders, tools that I can use while working in Caseware. But for both types of projects, when I'm done, we have tools that will take the entire Caseware file or Doc.It work binder, print them to a fully bookmarked PDF, and put them into our locked down archive. There's retention in the archive. The files are secure and that they can't be deleted and they can't be moved. There is naming conventions as to how information will be put away. It's very, very efficient because everything I have done for this client is in one place. I have their tax or their statements, and I have their tax returns, and I have their working paper files. And when I'm on the phone with a client, I can see everything about this client. Now, everything in my archive is a PDF so that it's independent of the original software. But that makes it very fast for me when I want to go onto a handheld device and I want to deliver something. And I can deliver via secure email, via the portal, via paper if I need to. But when we post to the archive, we will auto post to your portal based on the definition, because not every document would I want to, but in this case, these documents I would. And just before I wrap up quickly, I'm going to show you the power of Doc.It in a nutshell before we come to our final pool. While I'm working on this client, and I may have things dragged over onto multiple monitors. I may have things for multiple clients open while I'm working, but Susan Engel calls me. And so while she's talking, I'm going to go and I'm going to start to type in her name. Now, we also have group codes so that I have the whole affiliated group of Susan Engel. And on one screen now, I'm seeing her company, ABC Telecom. I'm seeing ABC Trust, the Emery Family Trust, Don Emery, Susan Engel, and her company, Arian Enterprises. Now, everything about that client, their random documents, their caseware, their work binders, their archives, their portals, I have everything on one screen. I have their workflow for all their projects on one screen. But that's access to information. And everything that there is in here is fully searchable as well across clients, which I can't do in Caseware. So I have retention management, which I can't do in Caseware. I have searchability, which I can't do in Caseware. But everything about a client's in one screen. It takes me about 1 second to move from, or 2 seconds to move from 1 year's project to the next year's project. And the whole index manager are my bookmarks. Very fast, very efficient. But I only really had 20 minutes to spend on the Doc.It software, and I can't show the whole software in 20 minutes. But it's integrated portal, integrated document management, integrated workflow, all into one suite, replacing a number of tools. And many times when it replaces tools like Adobe, like some of your document management tools, like your portals, it can end up actually being cost negative, that it saves you money and you get workflow and you get other things that you may not already have today. So Casey, wrapping up, please, could you please launch the last poll? All right. So what are your technology goals as a firm? What are you looking to do? Improve data security, enhance client services, consolidate software applications, encourage better team collaboration, or improve efficiency? And I'll give you a little bit of time, please, to vote in on this, because I want to make sure that you all get your CP hours. And while I'm just waiting for this to wrap up, I would like to thank Alan for the chance to be together with him again. And I'd like to thank all of you for being a part of this presentation. And I would, if you have any information, you can Google us at Doc.It, DOC-IT, and .com, and you'll be able to find. And let's close this down, please, and see what we have. So a multiple vote, 46% of you want to increase data security. I was just at the AICPI and AICPA show and did a whole presentation on how Doc.It will improve your data security. Client services, look at the information that you could drive to a client on one screen. Consolidate, let's get rid of some of those other applications. Collaboration, we're going to have tools to leave notes for priorities. We all can see where all the projects are. Improve efficiencies, a number of tools, integrated tools, one-off tools are going to be the things that you're going to need in order to finish up and in order to work with the Doc.It suite. So Alan, that just about is going to clear things up for me. If you would like to take back over and just wrap up.
Thank you, Kevin. That was excellent. Just a reminder before we wrap up that within 10 days of today, you will all be receiving a copy of the webinar, my teaching notes, my teaching files, and the answers to any of the questions that have been asked, plus, of course, your CPD certificates. So on that note, I want to say thank you to Kevin and to Casey, and of course to all of you for listening in. It's a wrap.